Picture this. You're strapped into a helicopter, flying low over the ocean. Below you, there's no land in sight. No boats, no islands, just gray water stretching in every direction for 100 miles. And then you see it, a single structure rising out of the sea, steel legs bolted into the ocean floor 200 feet below the surface. A platform the size of a football field, standing alone in the middle of nowhere. That's your workplace for the next 3 weeks. And here's the part almost nobody thinks about. Before that helicopter is even allowed to take off, you had to prove one thing, that if it crashes into the water and flips upside down, you can escape from it while submerged in the dark, holding your breath. That's not a story. That's the entry requirement. There are 3 things about life on an offshore oil rig that most people get completely wrong. The first is how you even get there. The second is what daily life actually looks like once you're on it. And the third is something almost nobody on land ever expects. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of these workers say they'd never trade it for a normal 9 to 5. So let's start with the commute, because it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. Most people commute in a car, maybe a train. The average offshore worker commutes in a helicopter over open ocean, and it's the most dangerous part of the entire job. To be cleared for it, every single worker has to pass something called HUET, which stands for Helicopter Underwater Escape Training. Here's what that means in practice. They strap you into a mock helicopter cabin. They lower it into a deep pool. Then they flip it completely upside down and fill it with water while you're still inside. Your job is to stay calm, find your reference point, release your harness, locate the exit, and swim out, upside down, underwater. And they don't let you pass until you can do it reliably. Why go to that extreme? Because when a helicopter hits water, it flips almost instantly. The engine and rotor sit up top, which makes the whole aircraft top-heavy, so it rolls the moment it touches the surface. Panic is what kills people in that scenario, not the water. So the entire training exists to replace panic with muscle memory. Every worker flying to a rig has done it. Some do it every few years to stay current. And that's before they've even landed, because once you actually step onto the platform, the rules change in a way that surprises almost everyone. The first thing they take from you, in a manner of speaking, is alcohol. Offshore rigs are completely dry. 0 alcohol, 0 drugs. Not go easy on it. Not while you're on shift. None at all. For the entire 2 or 3 weeks you're out there. Workers get randomly tested, and failing a test doesn't get you a warning. It gets you sent home on the next flight, and often it ends your career in the industry entirely. The reason is brutally simple. You are living on a floating structure packed with high-pressure pipelines, flammable gas, and heavy machinery, 100 miles from the nearest hospital. There is no room for impaired judgment. One mistake doesn't hurt one person. It can kill everyone on the platform. So the rule isn't strict for the sake of being strict. It's the price of keeping a small city alive in the middle of the ocean. And that brings up the thing that shocks people the most. Because if you're imagining these workers eating cold rations out of a can, you have it completely backwards. The food on offshore oil rigs is often extraordinary, not decent, not acceptable, genuinely excellent. Many rigs employ professional chefs, and the galley runs around the clock. Steak, seafood, fresh fruit, made-to-order breakfasts, desserts, multiple hot options at every meal. All of it free, all of it unlimited. Some workers joke that they gain weight offshore because the food is better than what they eat at home. And this isn't the company being generous for no reason. There's cold logic behind it. When you take people away from their families, their homes, and everything familiar, and you drop them onto a steel platform surrounded by water for weeks, morale becomes a safety issue. A miserable, homesick crew makes mistakes. So the food becomes one of the few comforts that money can reliably buy. And companies have learned that a great galley is one of the cheapest ways to keep an expensive, dangerous operation running smoothly. Feed people well, and they stay sharp. But good food doesn't change the clock, and the clock offshore is relentless in a way that's hard to describe until you've lived it. The standard offshore shift is 12 hours long, not 8, 12. And you don't work 5 and then get a weekend. You work 12 hours a day, every single day, for the entire length of your rotation, which is often 2 or 3 weeks straight without a day off. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off is common. Some rotations run 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. A few on the most remote rigs stretch even longer, so the math is intense. During your hitch, you are essentially always either working or sleeping. There's no errands, no commute home, no separating work life from home life, because for those weeks, there is no home life. The rig is everything. Your job, your bed, your gym, your dinner table, and your entire social world are all bolted to the same platform. And then, when the rotation flips, you get the opposite. Weeks completely off, at home, no work at all. It's a lifestyle that a lot of people find they can't do, and a lot of others find they never want to give up. We'll come back to why. Because there's one part of rig life that people rarely think about until something goes wrong. What happens when someone gets hurt? You're 100 miles from shore. There's no ambulance. There's no emergency room down the street. If someone has a heart attack, breaks a leg, or gets injured by machinery, the first line of defense is the rig medic, a single trained professional responsible for the health of the entire crew. For anything serious, the plan is a helicopter medical evacuation back to land. And that helicopter can take an hour or more to arrive, longer if the weather is bad. And offshore, the weather is very often bad, which is exactly why these platforms are engineered like fortresses, and why the thing they fear most isn't the water, it's the sky. When a major storm or hurricane is forecast, offshore rigs don't ride it out with a full crew, they evacuate. Non-essential workers are flown off the platform first, and if the storm is severe enough, the rig is shut down and cleared entirely. These structures are built to survive enormous waves and brutal winds, some designed to take waves over 80 feet tall, but the people are not left on board to test those limits. There's a whole choreography to it, a staged withdrawal by helicopter, sometimes across dozens of platforms at once when a hurricane moves through a region like the Gulf of Mexico. Getting hundreds of people off scattered platforms and safely onto land before a hurricane arrives is a logistical operation most people never even hear about. And here's a detail that catches everyone off guard. When you finally get to sleep after your 12-hour shift, the bed you're climbing into might not be yours alone. On many rigs, space is so tight that workers share cabins, and in the most crowded setups, they share beds. It's called hot bunking. Here's how it works. You and another worker are on opposite shifts. When you're working your 12 hours, the other person is sleeping in the bunk. When you come off shift, they head to theirs, and you climb into the same bed they just left. The mattress quite literally never gets cold, which is where the name comes from. Two people, one bed, but never in it at the same time. It's a strange kind of intimacy with a stranger you might barely speak to. And yet, despite all of it, the 12-hour days, the shared beds, the dry rules, the isolation, and the helicopter you had to prove you could escape from underwater. Here's what surprises people most of all. Ask offshore workers whether they'd trade it for a regular job on land, and a lot of them say no. And the reasons are not what you'd expect. The first is the money. Of course, offshore work pays well, and the long stretches off mean real time at home. But it's more than that. Many describe a bond with their crew that they've never found anywhere else. When you live and work with the same small group of people, surrounded by ocean, depending on each other for safety every single hour, something forms that ordinary coworkers never build. And then there's the view. Sunrises and sunsets over open water with nothing else in sight. No traffic, no noise, just the sea in every direction and a horizon that belongs entirely to you. The most extreme workplaces don't always produce the most miserable people. Sometimes they produce the most loyal ones. So the next time you fill up your gas tank and never think twice about where it came from, remember that somewhere out there, 100 miles from land, a crew is finishing a 12-hour shift on a steel island in the middle of the ocean, and more than a few of them wouldn't have it any other way. Now I want to hear from you. Could you do it? 2 or 3 weeks offshore, 12-hour days, no alcohol, a helicopter ride each way. Drop a yes or a no in the comments. And if you've actually worked offshore, tell us the one thing people always get wrong about it. I read every comment. If you learned something today, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.